Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a recent statement that has come from the US government, more specifically from the Treasury Secretary elect, that is the choice of Donald Trump. He has made a kind of tough talk as far as the sanctions, especially related to the Russian oil and its export is concerned. So how if this sanction itself is implemented in the coming Trump presidency, how it is going to have an impact on India, that is what we'll try to decipher and discuss in detail in this particular video. So first of all, to give you the brief background, it was the Scott Bessent who is the pick for the Treasury Secretary by the upcoming President Donald Trump. He has said that, and basically he has made a remark on the Joe Biden administration, the previous administration, that they had been too weak as far as the Russian oil sector is concerned. That means the sanctions which were imposed by the United States were not good enough to bring Russia at the negotiation table as far as the Russian-Ukraine war is concerned. And if you remember, President Trump, since before getting elected itself, has been continuously claiming that once he comes into power, he will ensure that the Russia-Ukraine war stops, both countries come at the negotiating table and can ultimately discuss about a ceasefire agreement. So these kind of sanctions which may be imposed during his presidency might be one of the card he want to play to bring Russia to the negotiating table. Now, what exactly the statement coming from the Scott Bessent? So he has said that if his statement is being heard by any Russian government officials, they should understand, if they are watching, that he will be 100% on board with taking sanctions up, and that is specifically if Donald Trump asks about it, and also if the United States Senate is also agreeing to it. In that case, especially on the Russian oil majors, oil companies such as Gazprom, you have two levels that would bring the Russian Federation to the table. And because of this statement and the possibility of ramping up of sanctions in the coming months, in the coming weeks even, the global oil prices have suddenly started seeing an upward pressure. The crude oil prices have seen a rise in the last few days. Now, if you look at the concerns for India in this regard, now before even Trump comes and take the helm of the US presidency, Joe Biden administration itself, we can say, has put another fresh curve on the Russian oil trade, and this has come about 1 week ago. Now, as per this new fresh curve, almost 183 tankers, the oil tankers that were supplying oil of Russia to India and China specifically, they have been put under the curve. And they constitute what many experts argue is the shadow fleet. The shadow fleet term was being used since past 2 years to refer to such kind of oil tanker which are not basically registered to such entities which are put under sanctions, or they use many such maneuvers where they hide their identity. They do make sure that their automatic identification system is not flagged up, and by doing so, basically we can say engaging also in a lot of illegal activities and illegal methods. They ensure that they do not feel the pressure of the sanctions. So basically it is a method, the shadow fleet is a method of circumventing the sanctions that has been imposed by the US and the allied Western countries. So these shadow fleet will get impacted because of this fresh sanctions, largely impacting the oil markets of Russia in the India and China. Plus, these sanctions are also slightly different from the earlier one, as they are more targeted, and Indian import is going to be hurt most significantly as per the experts. Now, to what extent the impact we'll see even after the Trump come into power depend on how tightly the administration implements these sanctions that has been imposed by the Biden administration as well. So we'll have to wait and watch exactly, because we know that in coming few days Trump will take the charge of US administration. So detailed understanding we'll have at that time. Now, if we talk about the shadow fleet in India, the ban that has been put, or the curve that has been put by the Biden's administration on the shadow fleet, it brings trouble for India, because it is believed that the newly sanctioned 183 tankers, out of these at least 75 of them have transported Russian oil to the India in past few years. And just last year alone, if you talk about the 183 sanctioned tankers transported around 687 million barrels of crude, of which about 30% were shipped to India. So a large bulk of this shadow fleet were transferring oil to the India. Now, to be more specific, these tankers were supplying oil to the Indian refiners. For example, we have state-run refiners such as Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum. Plus, we also have private-run refineries such as the largest one being run by the Reliance Industries Limited. So most of the experts argue that these Indian refiners are going to face the burden and pressure if these tankers in the future are not able to supply them oil, because till now they have been getting a cheap oil, relatively much more cheaper oil from the Russia. Now, this also you have to understand the context of the dependency of oil for India, or specifically for the import dependency of India on the oil. The reason is because if you look at from the consumption perspective, India is world's third largest consumer of the crude oil. On the other hand, the production capacity, the domestic production capacity is much more limited, because we have the oil reserves only found in certain pockets of India, such as you have in the Assam region, Naharkatia, then you have certain areas of Gujarat basin, then you have certain areas of Gulf of Khambat near Bombay High, and then you have the recent discovery of oil from the Krishna Godavari basin. So these domestic supply is not enough to meet the demand of the consumer of India, and that is why for more than 85% of the consumption, India has to depend upon the import from the other countries. Now, till 2022 February, since till Russia-Ukraine war did not started, Russia was not a major supplier to the India as far as the oil is concerned. India used to import most of its oil from the Middle Eastern countries, some from the South American countries, and then from the US as well. Now, since 2022, as Russia lost most of its European market because of the heavy sanctions imposed by the European countries, United States, as well as due to the cutting off of the gas pipeline supply, whether it is the Nord Stream or whether it is a recent friendship pipeline. So it is now India has become the biggest market for Russia's oil apart from China. And obviously India also had advantage and benefit from it, because the Russian oil were much more reliable and much more cheaper as compared to the oil from the other sources, obviously because the limitations imposed on Russia. Now, this also we can understand by looking at the data from the graph. For example, if you compare the figures from February 2022 and then till July 24, we can see till February 22, the Russian oil used to compose somewhere about 0.5 to 1% of the total supply to India. And since then, it has increased significantly, reaching the highest figure of almost 40%. What this data basically says, that we can see since 2022, we have a significant decline of oil import to India from the Persian Gulf region, as well as from the other regions we can see slight decline. But a massive decline from Persian Gulf and a massive upsurge increase from the Russia is that what we have seen largely as an impact of the war. And today Russia makes up the largest crude oil supplier to India from the data that we have gathered from January to September in year 2024. Then you have Iraq, Saudi Arabia, UAE and US. These are the top 5 major exporter of oil to Indian market. So obviously any impact that can happen on the Russian oil production or Russian oil export will have a significant ripple effect on the entire Indian oil and gas sector. Plus, because oil and gas sector is what we can call as the backbone of the economy, the entire economy will also be affected. Especially we can see the rise of prices or inflationary pressure can be difficult to manage, especially related to the RBI's this what you can say band of 4 to 6%. So it will not have implications only on the oil and gas sector, entire economy can be impacted. That is what we can understand. The other area where experts argue that India can face difficulty is in its effort toward the internationalization of rupees, because the tighter sanctions that will be imposed on Russian oil will complicate India's hands. To understand this, by in last 2 years, India and Russia have continuously tried to build up such kind of method through which they can settle the portion of oil trade in their domestic currencies. That means earlier when India, suppose when you used to buy oil from Russia, it used to what you can say pay in the form of US dollar. Now US dollar is no longer available because Russia has been cut off from the SWIFT. So that is why India and Russia had tried to settle their trade in current exchange of rubles versus rupees. But the rupee trade has not taken off as desired, especially if you relate it or compare it to the Chinese and Russian domestic currency exchange. And in this context, we can understand also the International Monetary Fund has said that in the recent times, what we have observed is the sudden rise of renminbi, especially in its share, in which the global transactions or trade commodity related transactions are being done. And its gains, that the gain of Chinese currency, Chinese renminbi, is almost a quarter of the decline that the dollar has seen in its market dominance share. So the renminbi has been the major beneficiary of the entire debacle that has happened after the Ukraine war. Now, in this context, also you have to understand Trump has already threatened India and all the BRICS nations that if you try to or attempt to replace US dollar as a world's reserve currency, you will face 100% tariff for exporting into the US market. And the same kind of what you can say feeling has been reverberated by the statement given by the Treasury Secretary elect. He also has said that US dollar should remain the world's reserve currency. And de-dollarization effort largely began because of the cutoff of Russia from the SWIFT system, that is a major financial system through which countries are engaged in the financial transaction or interchange of the currency or payment of the goods and commodities that they have basically transacted with each other. So since 2022, SWIFT or the Russia has been cut off from the SWIFT supply, and that is why in this context the Russian President Vladimir Putin has noted that dollar has been or is being used as a weapon by the United States and other allied Western countries. We really see that this is so. I think that this is a big mistake by those who do this, and that is why you might have heard that all the BRICS countries are also thinking about and planning to come up with their own currency that is being referred as the BRICS currency, and it is the the issue about the BRICS currency that has led Trump to threaten the BRICS countries. Now, impact already is being visible because of the sanctions imposed by Biden administration. Because what the recent data from the United States, you can say Department of the Treasury is coming, it has said that the banks have stopped processing payments in the US dollars, and as far as the Gazprom is concerned, which is the largest oil supplier and oil producer in Russia, it has been settling all its payment in the ruble. So this is nothing but an impact of the this sanction. Second, also few years back, that means on December 5, 2022, the US and G7 countries put a price cap of $60 per barrel. That means it has said that no country should buy Russian oil if its price is higher than $60 per barrel. This is the maximum price countries have to pay. So this was largely intended to again limit the Russia's revenue that it generates from the oil and then put it in the war effort. And on the February 27 deadline also is reaching now, because it has said that Biden administration has said that for the deliveries of all crude cargoes that are loaded on sanctioned vessel prior to 10 January, they have to be delivered by February 27. If suppose these cargoes which have been sanctioned are not able to deliver the supply by this deadline, then again they will come under the sanction, effect of sanction, and their oil could not be delivered. So this is the entire issue regarding the new sanction which has been imposed and the possibility of tougher sanctions that might lie ahead once Trump takes the office. And that is overall what you can understand is going to be the impact on India also. So if you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.